Welcome to Saturday Open Source Offline Data Access and Self-Hosted Homelab Q&A. I like doing these Saturday ones or Sunday. For those of you that got a notification that said Sunday, but then realized it's now on Saturday because I changed it. Yes, from the time I filled it out, I said, oh yeah, when I copied and pasted, and I don't know why I copy and paste that other than I don't feel like typing again. The last one was Sunday. So when I copied and pasted it, it said Sunday. I'm like, oh wait, let's fix that. So it's fixed now. So some of you may have got a Saturday notice or a Sunday notice first, and then it does say Saturday now. The important part is that you're all here. That's what really counts. That's what really matters. But I've had a lot of things on my mind lately, and I have been goofing around, as I like to say, with the offline data access concepts. And let me explain a little bit of where my head's at with this. There's obviously kind of a need when things are offline to still be able to access data. And I was kind of thinking I really love, to be able to self-host. And I've talked about this with Olama, being able to self-host the LLMs. So you have a access to the models with a lot of knowledge and you can query them. And what made me think really much deeper about the off-grid access is up here in Michigan. I'm in the lower part of Michigan, but I have some family that lives in northern Michigan, and they suffered probably the worst ice storm in recorded history that they've had in that area. And it took out the infrastructure for days. Some of it's still not finished, and it's been like a month, but the cell towers actually went down. And that was where I said, wow, when you're offline, how do you access things? How do you get some information that you might need? And it sent me first down the rabbit hole of some of the mapping tools. And I really, let me pull it up real quick. So I'm going to share all these with you. But this particular one, there we go. I actually played with this one right away, and I'm pretty impressed with it. And I figured by talking with all of you, people can email me at homelab@launchsystems.com or give me the names of some other things here. I think there's a lot of apps that I just was kind of unaware of and didn't spend a lot of time thinking about. But I was like, not just Google Maps. I already know you can do offline maps of Google Maps, but I wanted to take a step back and go further. What if you wanted to download an APK, use an open source app that's available on GitHub, and be able to have really truly offline maps that work on your device, and your device doesn't have to be connected, and you can get this going. And I think this is kind of cool. And it's got it turned out to be better than Google Maps as soon as I started using it. I'm like, I actually really like this. This is just a really cool application. This is just one of the things I was thinking about. But I like the fact that you can just download large areas. And because even a modest, not tier one brand new phone, but even a modest phone now has like plenty of storage on it to be able to download and have these maps offline, have large amounts of Wikipedia information offline stored on the phone. I think this is a really interesting thing to think about, because I was traveling last year in South Dakota, and I went ahead and just did the Google offline maps. And I also do offline maps with my second phone I have right here. I use this phone when I ride my motorcycle. I call it my navigation phone because I have it mounted on my motorcycle. And if you follow any of the motorcycling videos for off-roading, you'll realize people crash sometimes, and then the phone may get broken. So I never have my main phone on there. But yeah, I'm loaded that on here, and I use another tool called Onyx Off-Road. It's a paid application, not open source, but it's specifically for finding off-roading trails. But I download offline maps because I go in areas when I travel. I go to areas frequently there's not cell service. But like I said, this is some thoughts I had on this. But let's go a little bigger now. And the map thing's cool. And I, no sponsorship, no relationship at all I have with this company, OSM .net is I'll leave a link right here. It's just osmand.net is their site. But yeah, you can check it out. They got a free version. They have a paid version that gives you a few extra features. I actually went ahead and bought the paid version because I wanted the extra features. So yeah, absolutely. It's worth checking out in my opinion. So it's definitely pretty cool. As people will always ask, and I've had a lot of motorcycles. I see someone ask that question again. The current toy that Tom plays with, and I'll share this I have I have had a lot of motorcycles, including big adventure motorcycles. This is what I currently ride, is a little Honda 125. I know it's not a big adventure motorcycle, but it's fun and I enjoy it. So yeah, that's my little Honda 125. But I'm not here to get off topic about motorcycles, because I want to talk about something else that also is worth talking. Yeah, OpenStreetMap is pretty cool too. And I'm going there because OpenStreetMap you can use with a few other applications. I'm actually looking at, and I'm probably going to put together a whole tutorial, but it's going to start with Kiwix. Kiwix. I think if someone, I didn't think about how it was pronounced until I started saying it right now. But Kiwix is interesting. And I've seen other people overcharging for this maybe. And I think this is pretty cool. The fact that they have like a whole kit and you can help support the project. I mean, I think the OS only option here is like $25, but they also have just straight up the apps here. Straight up these apps you can just download and set up. Matter of fact, I have one of these apps. I used the Flatpak version. I was playing with it on Linux, and you load everything in with these Zim files, and you can get Zim downloads for all kinds of different things. So you can get Zim downloads, and let's say we wanted to have stuff from Project Gutenberg, iFixit. It's only 3.37 gigs, and you can download the entire thing for iFixit. And I really think this is something that matters to a lot of people. One, you may just want to have an offline copy, is what if there was a large infrastructure problem? You know, the internet is probably put together with more duct tape than you realize. And, you know, with changing things and companies going out of business, and just the changing environments around us in terms of where these places host things and whether or not they're allowed to host things for whatever reasons, I think having an offline copy of things would be great, because you may one day you find iFixit's gone and you're like, they had a lot of great information. Where does it all go? And I am probably late to the game on this. I'm a little bit of a data hoarder because I have a lot of this, but I've never really played with this level of it to where I want to say, you know what, I need all these wiki books here, and that's a lot of books, and I need Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is not that big. So you can download Wikipedia or the Wikipedia 100, which is really small, but the top 100 ones. But I mean, this is really just kind of some interesting stuff I think a lot of you might be interested in. 109 gigs is not nothing, but it's only 109 gigs. It's not terabytes of data. That's not that much. And be able to say, all right, man, I've got a copy of Wikipedia in case for some reason it disappears. Wiki Voyage, so the collaborative travel guide, these are kind of cool too. What if you wanted to travel? What if this information isn't there? And I kind of think a lot about this because there's so many things that just aren't there anymore, and you're gone. You're like, wow, I could have downloaded it. Now I didn't. And now I got to see if maybe a friend has it. And I figure this is going to be something that is just worth me doing some videos and tutorials. I think it aligns good with the Homelab. And there's a whole tutorial for downloading OpenStreetMaps, and then it lets you self-host OpenStreetMaps, which is really slick. And if you VPN back to your house, you could actually be very private about where you're traveling. And I think that may be something people are interested in. Of, well, I don't really want to share all my data for where I'm traveling, and VPN back to my house and having it query. I mean, granted, there's still going to be, if you're using cell towers, a level of knowledge back to if you use offline maps and you can set up offline devices. You know, I'm not saying let's go back to the days of the TomTom GPS and things like that, but in some ways it's kind of a handy little thing if you want to be a little bit more cautious about maybe, you know, having a history of addresses. So I think there's a big privacy piece in here. There's a big, you know, self-hosted, and yeah. The Kiwi. Yeah, the Kiwi project is Kiwix project. I'm sorry. It's right here. It's kiwix.org. It's I believe a nonprofit, and it's open source. And like I said, their OS image, the apps are free, but they have like where you can download an OS image and it builds like a web page. So if what they want for it, when I was looking at it, their hotspot one that's set up for a Raspberry Pi. I think this is great. $25. They have a medical one here. You can purchase it already set up, like loaded on a Raspberry Pi for $300. Like, this is pretty cool to me. I don't think 25 is a lot to ask for what they have. There is ways you can do this for free. Don't get me wrong, but to me, like, kind of simple to be able to do it in a 1 terabyte micro SD card. Yeah, that's a pretty achievable thing here. So definitely really cool. Unlimited imager access 1 month, choose from thousands of websites and apps, etc. Okay, as many configurations you want, up to 1 terabyte card, like purchase a month. They have just some neat options here for how they set it up. I want to support them. Like I said, I have no relationship with them. And a lot of the apps are free. So you can donate, you can volunteer, you can partner with them. So I think it's a pretty neat thing. I never spent a lot of time looking at this. And I know at first it started, some of their first one is, people in less developed nations that may not have the same level of infrastructure, that this is very valid. I never really thought about this. An article, and it was a small town village in, I think it was Africa. It was in that area where they only had internet a few hours a day because that's the only time they could power up the towers. I remember it was an article I read a while ago, and I'm like, that is just kind of different from the way you think. Now, as cell phone towers are becoming more prevalent, they're getting more internet access, and it opens up a lot of opportunity for knowledge access. But I think being able to do something like this and helping support these projects is something I feel a lot of passion around it. And I'm, I was like been scratching my head out going, okay, this is actually pretty cool. And it's not something that is incredibly expensive. And I think if you're already in a Homelab environment, this isn't hard for you to do, to download these apps. Many of us have the levels of storage needed to be able to hold on to this data. I mean, if you would have told 15 years ago it's 109 gigs, that's a lot of data. 2025, 109 gigs, not a lot of data. It's an insane amount of data back from my dial-up days. I think of like the BBS days. And I like that there's a lot of people even collecting BBS text. The old BBS files. Hopefully I got it. Yeah, this tab here. Too many tabs open. If anyone hasn't seen the BBS documentary, by the way, it's actually pretty cool. But there's a lot of archiving of a lot of the old BBS stuff. And it's one of those things, I have still stuff like the Babel file and everything else. And it's kind of cool if you go backwards in time, but it's also, some people probably never saved any of it. So you're like, wow, where did all that stuff go? And, eventually BBS has got retired as the internet became more prevalent. And where's that data now? Do they still there, or do people still have it? And that's where I'm loving seeing some of these people going, let's collect it. Let's get it all available and putting it on there. Textfiles.com is where a lot of this is hosted. But that's also, it's, very limited. Tweet about it, hashtag Textfiles. I got a lot of great stuff here. But at some point, the person running this is a little older than me. And as of right now, we have not figured out a way to make humans live forever. So there is a time, like, is there a succession plan where someone else will take care of this? Downloading all this stuff on here. Textfiles, wow, it's been on for 25 years with no ads. If you feel like donating to its roughly $1,200 a year upkeep, not bad. I've actually met Jason, who runs the Textfiles. I met him at a hacker conference a number of years ago. So yeah. BBS documentary. Yeah, let's pull that up real quick here. If you can find it for free on YouTube, I think they sell it here. Like if you wanted a copy, but if I'm not mistaken, where do you get it here? Let me drop the link for anyone interested. But I think they also, and let me pull it up on YouTube. BBS. Yep. The play. I'll drop it for you guys here. This is by the author. This isn't like someone bootlegging it. But the playlist is available from Jason. Jason Scott. As far as I know, that's the real author. So I'll also leave a link to his channel. That looks like him. Of course, I met him 25 years ago. So but it's kind of cool. The just going through the history of it. I'm always really Black Bar says sold out. You can watch it on YouTube. I mean, the documentary was made a long time ago. Oh, I just realized it says right here at the top. In the 2025 to 20th anniversary of the BBS documentary is underway. So interesting. 20th anniversary. Wow. It is super cool that all the stuff that happened from so long ago. All these old computers and stuff. Neat stuff. But nonetheless, this is if you wonder where I spend, I like a lot of the computer history stuff. That's sometimes where I spend some of my time on YouTube. Sometimes motorcycle videos and sometimes that. But I thought I'd share that with all of you. And I like I said, I'm coming back to where I started with this. I will be working on a video talking about some of how the Kiwix project works, how you can set up a Docker image that reads your Zim files that you download and set up a web server, because they have a Docker version of all this too, and that's all free. That you can have all that. The only thing that they don't have for free is their, and this is to support the project. I mean, they're little, Raspberry Pi images that you can get. And you can build. It's not hard to build this yourself, but they're just saving you the trouble by having a $25 option for it. So I think that's kind of nice for someone goes, do I want to learn it myself, or do I want $25 and flash an image and cool, it's a Raspberry Pi with all this information on it. I like that, and these are things they know the audience are playing to. Dozens of resources for homesteading, water treatment, military, and emergency medicine, blah, 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 which is pretty cool. And I have a friend who has I eventually me and him are going to put together, I'm going to see him next week, and I'm going to sit down and talk to him. I think it'd be fun to interview him, or maybe go out to his place too. He has an off-grid cabin that he built that runs Home Assistant, and he's got solar that is everything's controlled by Home Assistant, and it's really slick. I want to go spend some time and see how he did the build and everything else. And I figured it's adjacent enough to my channel that people be interested of running a low power home assistant that manages a solar system. And he has internet there and controls a lot of things. It's actually kind of cool, but this is also, I mean, he's got Starlink, so he does have internet access there, but what if internet access went out and you wanted to look things up? This would be a handy little thing for him to have there as well. So I think I think it's kind of cool. Get out the BBS. I have to call someone. Dial up comments. Oh, yeah. Yep. I ran a Renegade 2 node, one local, one phone line BBS back on a Packard Bell. Yes. We used to call the Packard Bells the peanut butters. They were the, the PB 486 to PB 486. We always called them peanut butters at the computer store I worked at. I don't remember why. I think it just said PB and we said peanut butter. Yeah. In-depth design and build is kind of cool. It's really, there's just a lot to building some of the off-grid stuff. And my friend Kevin, by the way, he's worked in enterprise tech. He's a really smart network engineer. He's been around for a minute doing this. This is his career's same as mine, working in the managed services space, and great guy. But I always joke because we all say, man, screw this. I'm going to go build an off-grid cabin. And I'm like, Kevin actually built an off-grid cabin. And that, to me, that's novel. Like, we all talk about it like, oh yeah, we're going to go do that. Then not no one, very few people actually follow through and build the whole off-grid cabin. that is definitely a cool thing. So I think I gave everybody all the links here so I can start closing all this. The last one, and I think I threw this in here, was the in case anyone's just joining now, was the Osmond OS MAND maps. But yeah, definitely check this if you're interested in having completely offline maps that are actually, after only playing with a little bit more impressive than Google in some ways. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Definitely, we're checking out. Oh, there's for the Kiwix project too. There's a Reddit forum as well. So I'll throw that in here if anyone wants to go through where people are discussing the project. So, like I said, I'm probably going to put together a video on it because I find it really interesting and it seems like a cool use of one of my Raspberry Pis that I have a NVMe drive in. I got a nice drive in it, but it also, I think, is kind of a cool mini NAS project too, where how much can I pack in a mini NAS and then serve up some data, and can I do this at low power but still have access to it? And low power comes from, can we run it at my friend Kevin's solar? Can I run it at my camper? If I'm in my camper and I'd like to look something up, can I have a little piece of the internet that is small, low powered, and I can take with me on a camping trip? I think there's some kind of fun things that can be done with it. Definitely pretty cool. Let's see here. Let me get off of that soapbox and go back to what's in the photo, because I think this might be something, and I don't know why this one's not working, but a question had come up with plenty of them being ready in. Yes. The question came up about replacements. Low power NAS for an RV. Yes, that is something I'm looking at. And two things about a low power NAS. I actually consulted on some projects for this. It wasn't exactly low powered. It was a NAS built in an RV because they do travel to locations for filming for these commercials. We deal with some movie industry and commercial industry clients. So this is a topic that comes up from time to time where they are shooting with, like, the Red Dragon is actually, I didn't realize this. I know it's popular by KBHD, brought it kind of to mainstream people noticing it, but those type of, 4K, 8K or higher cameras produce a lot of data, and those shoots are real expensive to go on site. So they have NASs in the RVs and equipment that they bring, so they can actually have redundancy of backups when they do the shoot and verify that all the media works. So yeah, I've actually consulted on some of that, but I think a lower powered one might be a cool video and literally something I would be using. And I'm much more enthusiastic about things I use. I don't like hypotheticals as much. I like things that I'll use, and putting an NAS in my camper seems like an interesting project. I have another friend locally here. We were talking about it because he's also into some of the off-grid stuff. I would love a refactor of my second backup. 4 USB drives die within 2 years. Got 2. Time would love to disconnect them physically, but how? I'm really not big on a lot of the USB drive backups. I know this is not probably everybody's favorite answer, but I use multiple NASs. That is in my opinion, the best way to back up. I know it's a lot more expensive to have a second NAS, but unless you're taking each of these USB drives and, plugging them in and then doing another duplicate, because you don't know when a single drive will fail, and having a backup on a single drive with the size of these drives, it feels very risky. So I keep all my data spinning, and it's fine if you want to power down the NAS and back it up once a week, because that's one of my next things I'm working on, is figuring out a proper way to power cycle the NAS so it's only on once a week when it needs to be on and then off the other times. Yeah, there's definitely some neat ideas around that, but another NAS is the best way to back up, especially because people end up collecting so much data so much. A cool tool is IT tools. I have it in my Homelab. I got to look at that one because I'm kind of redoing some of my Homelab stuff and really rethinking it. And right now what I do is I run most things, but I need to build it out better and more automated maybe to do some of the updates. I update it by hand, but I do things just with one virtual machine that's just called Docker. And obviously, because it's called Docker, you'd be shocked to learn it runs Docker. And I really like this though, because is the one place. It has other spots it mounts and connects to, but it's my one place where all my Docker apps live. Because people go, well, Tom, how do you use Docker apps if you use an orchestra? I'm like, I have one VM called Docker. And the cool thing is I can move this VM to another host anytime I want. It does regular backups automatically. So all of my Docker apps are contained in this one virtual machine that run the things I run. I don't have that many Docker apps, by the way. There's not a ton of different things right now. I am going to consolidate because I have a couple of them scattered because some of them I run on my TrueNAS. And I do have Portainer on here, but I'll show you at least a couple that are on here right now, which is going to be just these things. NetData, Nginx Proxy Manager, Open Web UI. I have been playing with TwinGate, and a lot of people ask about it. So I am working on a review, working on looking at TwinGate. I don't know about a review. TwinGate definitely works different, but the question on TwinGate comes up a lot. Yeah, a low-powered NAS would definitely have to be SSD based. Zima board plus 2.5-inch SSDs, possibly. That's probably not bad. Honestly, though, the one of the challenges is x86 just isn't as power efficient as ARM, and Raspberry Pi or any ARM-based NAS generally is going to perform better. But then you're not going to run TrueNAS on it because TrueNAS does not run an ARM, so you end up with different problems. So I got to figure out which way to go. Is I really want to go ZFS. I really like TrueNAS. I don't know, and I've never really dug into if ZFS works good on ARM or not. I don't know. I don't have that answer right now. What CPU do you have in mind for the purpose, Tom? I'm thinking about building a 5-bay NAS using i5-9400. I don't know. Honestly, people overthink the CPU in a NAS, and let me explain why. I probably should retire this box, and probably one of my staff wants it. But I have too many, and I'm like, I have actually 2 of these that right now. Look up this processor here if you want. And you'll realize that this is an actual, TrueNAS one. I like it. That's the only reason I've kept it as long as I have. But I want to point out that this is an Intel C3758. This is a really old from 2017 processor. It's also really not fast if you want to take the time to Google it. And I'm running applications on here, just a few, not a lot. I run a few apps. Looks like they need some updates, so let's go ahead and update them. But yeah, this thing sits idle and it edits my 4K videos. I'm shooting my videos in 4K 60, and this handles it. When people go, Tom, I need to build a NAS with this incredibly fast processor, I'm like, we do have needs for that when clients build really high performance things. But when you're able to edit, with a 10 gig connection with 4K video on a almost 8-year-old processor, yeah. Is there a Starlink competitor? I have not researched this. Someone told me there's another company in Europe doing it. I don't remember their name. It's not something I don't use Starlink right now, so I don't really have an answer to that. And I'm not really looked into it. Have I ever used TarSnap? I've heard of it, but I've never used it, so I don't have much of an opinion on it. Yeah, Wake on LAN is the easiest way to do that. Probably SSH in, have a script that runs, kicks off the backup, and then SSH goes in and powers it off. Probably a way to handle it, and then you can just Wake on LAN back up the thing. Let's see here. Have you seen Two Guys Tech video on Platform 9 Private Cloud Director? I have not. Other people said TwinGate is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, Jeff Geerling would definitely be someone I'm going to look at for. There's not another person I can think of, I should say, besides Jeff Geerling is the only person really to look at for Raspberry Pi powered NASs. He's the definitive source on that. It's a private cloud solution on KVM OpenStack. I care mostly about stability. So yeah, I don't know how OpenStack is cool, but OpenStack's got a lot of complexity to it. I try to shy away from some of the programs, and I try to remind people this all the time. When I'm thinking about how to, whether I'm doing this for a client or doing this for myself, and I brought this up the other day when I did the last video I just published about Vates and what they're doing with open source. The question I ask a lot is, what's your plan to maintain this? Or if I'm supporting it, what's my plan to maintain it? And when I see things like, don't get me wrong, Kubernetes is cool, but Kubernetes comes with complexities. So I don't run Kubernetes because I don't need those complexities. I'm fine if someone could point out that, but Tom, now you're manually updating some of the Docker stuff and it's not self-healing. I'm like, if Open Web UI went down or my Nginx proxy manager went down on my Homelab, not a big deal. In clients, it might be a big deal, but then you also have to make sure you have the staff who can, manage a Kubernetes cluster, because the majority of time, many of the failures you deal with in IT is often caused by updates and complexity, more so than hacking. Hacking is terrible because someone has now caused your problem, but many of the updates that go wrong are definitely a result of downtime, and that's why people are so afraid to patch. And frequently it comes down to they set something up that they didn't think about how sustainable those updates were. There's a lot of food for thought on that. MinIO is the only app I use on my NAS. SyncThing is a great idea. Yeah, SyncThing to me, it just seems like a natural for running on the NAS because it's storage. SyncThing is controlling all my real-time backups, if you will. So SyncThing is set up here, and I've talked about this. I've done videos on SyncThing, and then I have snapshots on the directory for SyncThing that get replicated to backup NASs. But SyncThing, on-site and off-site, is my real-time backup. And maybe there's a video where I talk about what is and isn't real-time backups. And SyncThing to me is a real-time backup, even though people may think it's not a backup, it's a syncing tool, but it's a backup because I was working on a spreadsheet and I put some hours into that spreadsheet. I had some details, and that's, 2 or 3 hours of my time putting together some data that was for a project. Well, if I were to lose that project because I'm backing up once a day, that would be tragic, but I saved it along the way. So anytime I saved it, SyncThing goes, aha, there's a new version of this file. Let me synchronize it. And SyncThing has the trash can file versioning that keeps 5 extra copies, or 10. I can't remember how many I'm keeping. Probably 10, because it's all documents, so I keep a lot. But I don't want to lose that. So it's immediately synchronized from my computer to my NAS, and my NAS synchronizes it to an offsite NAS, and then I have a laptop, and it's synchronized on there whenever the laptop comes back on. I don't use my laptop very often. I guess I use my laptop roughly once or twice, a few times now, probably every other day. I open my laptop, I send emails from my laptop, and I have files on there. But you get the idea. You don't want to spend 2 hours in something and lose it. That's why SyncThing to me is a critical part of your backups, because any of the data, what if I'm storing, I don't know, some API information, I'm writing a script and I got to put some files and I don't commit it somewhere. And I'm like, crap, I need this, I don't want to lose this, because that would be, once again, a bunch more work. Are you using Ubiquity for all your firewall stuff now? No, I think people get hung up on the monoculture idea. I mean, when you look at what I do for business, it's a variety of things. It's not monoculture. It's, just whatever thing is available for that. And sometimes it's a rip and replace. Sometimes a client has existing contract on, let's say, a Juniper or a Fortinet or whatever firewall they have. So it's an option. pfSense is still a great firewall. We still have a lot of pfSense in play. And I was talking to someone about selling a pfSense HA setup the other day, because that was what would fit their needs. I like UniFi as well. So I have pfSense setups. I have UniFi setups. I like both. Oh, yeah. Over-engineering is a huge cause for concern. Absolutely. There's a discussion, me and Oliver Lambert, he's the head of Vates, and it's funny because, I've never physically in person met him, but I've talked to him several times, and I'll see his answers, and they're so much like mine, and we go back and forth, where he says, like, complexity, like, do you need HA? It's yes, we know XCP-ng does HA. Do you need HA? Because I watch people screw up HA and that be the cause of their downtime. People goofing up complex setups often causes more downtime that the complex setup didn't. If I have another friend who might be listening right now, he's probably knowing exactly what I'm talking about. I should message him when I'm done because he was doing some complicated things that I think got overcomplicated. Yeah, my current fiction book calls it Sabotage by Software Update. Yes. Yeah, Twingate connectors running on Docker, Mac, with Monterey is amazing. So yeah, Twingate's interesting because it does not work like the other overlay VPNs. It has a different concept compared to them. So yeah, like I said, they want to sponsor my channel, so we've talked to them, and I wanted to poke at it a little bit. A number of people are asking because they've been sponsoring other YouTubers, and they reached out to me about sponsoring my channel. So, sponsorships help make the world go round. It is what it is. They released a community edition of Private Cloud Director. I doubt many would run it in Homelab. Yeah, that kind of requirement, it doesn't sound like it's even targeted to Homelab. It's kind of like Vios. Here's Vios. You can run this. It's all command line driven firewall. It's not a bad product or anything like that. What's the license? Oh, I think it's 20,000 a year. So we're definitely not targeting, the home users that much. Yep. I've been to Chicago quite a few times. I actually like taking the train to Chicago because from Detroit to Chicago by train, it's actually a nice ride. Is there a way to reduce the noise in a 1U server? It is greatly challenging. 1U servers suffer from physics problems. Smaller fans are harder to move volumes of air and be quiet. 2U servers, I think, are pretty good at it. 4U, a lot better. But 1U, man, those fans to get things done, they have a lot of buzz to them. I don't have any solutions. Noctua does make some fans. I've not spent much time to tell you that, what the best solution is for it. So I don't have an easy answer on that one. You're up to 123 sites in UniFi Site Manager. Very cool. Oh, I didn't know the self-hosted podcast was ending. I have on my website, if you go to lawrencesystems.com, click on the creators we love, which is, we have the things we love and then we have the creators we love. I like the open source security podcast, Risky Biz, The Art of Network Engineering, 2.5 Admins, Security Now, Darknet Diaries. Those are good. And I have some YouTube channels here as well. I don't know enough other Homelab ones. I keep going back and forth about starting the Homelab one back up. It's somewhere in my head. I got to figure that out. Moved pfSense UDM yesterday. Really missing the advanced feature set, but cool having the app control now. Yeah, I like having it all in one place. Is your 1U super? Oh yeah. Is your 1U servers cooling made by GE, Rolls-Royce, or any other jet engine manufacturer? It probably sounds that way. Copper versus fiber. I've already answered this many times. There's a video on it that says put some DAC in your rack, and it's not fiber. I would say DAC. So go for some DAC in the rack versus copper. Copper's fine, but hot. Uses a lot more wattage. I mean, they're both 10 gig. It's the same speed, but wattage wise, it's actually less electricity to do things over DAC. Is it worth buying the Dream Machine Pro in Homelab for 2025? It's a good question. They don't have an end of life announcement, but that has been around for a while. But to the same extent, one of the things that's interesting about UniFi, let's go and pull this up here. It's a good discussion because I've had this. I don't have an answer for that I can really say. But we look at the Dream Machine Pro Max and we scroll down and we're going to look at the technical specs. And I'll zoom in because these are small. where do we got the CPU here? We have a quad-core ARM Cortex A57 that's in their Pro Max, their latest one. But let's go back to the cloud gateways and just look at the, looks like they don't sell that one. So the SC is, the UDM Pro K, just the Dream Machine Pro. So not Dream Machine, but Dream Machine Pro here. And we look at technical specifications and we scroll down. And we have a quad-core ARM Cortex A57. They're using the same CPU. So technically, other than it being a little bit clocked down, I'm going to guess support for each of these is going to last for quite a while because they're the same one. I think that's probably not a bad idea to get the Pro here in 2025, but it's a little more. You can get the newer model that's a little bit faster. But I don't know. This one also only has 4 gigs. I believe the other one has 8 gigs of RAM in it. What is the best open source Alexa alternative? As far as I don't remember the name of it because I don't have any interest in talking to my Home Assistant, but there is a voice thing you can set up a Home Assistant. I just, there's a lot of people that ask me about that, and I've got several friends that done videos on it. Wendell's been doing some videos on it, and a couple others, like Wendell from Level 1 Techs, and I don't know. I just never had the desire to say, as much as I like Star Trek, computer, lights on, computer, Earl Grey, hot. I like that in concept in a show. It would be boring to watch them touch light switches and make a big deal of it. But myself, I have the app on my phone and I am content to touch the button. More specifically, what's faster, if I press this button right here, it turns the lights on and off behind me. And if I hold the button, it'll power down everything in my studio so I can just walk out of my studio here and have everything turned off. So I like buttons. So it makes me strange. I guess I've yelled at one too many voice to text things. It says, why does it say that? I didn't say those words at all. Yeah, Dream Machine SC is a lot newer. Thing is switching a school district from Meraki to Ubiquity for APs, crazy idea. We've done several school districts, and almost always the competitor is either Cisco or Meraki, like the Cisco models or the Meraki ones. I have to do a follow-up video on a school district. But I spent a little while. I got to look at the last time I talked to them, but they are still happy like almost 2 years later. And it was a pretty good project. The project was about $250,000 swap out at a school district. So it's not like we just did a school. We did the school district and we were replacing a bunch of Cisco equipment. And yeah, that's people are, we did a medical facility. Oh man, that one we did. They need to replace them. They're not end of life yet, but man, they got some old access points because we installed them in like 2018, but they're still working. They're still using them. It's still going good. So yeah. I'm thinking we get an HL15 with a Noctua fan quit for 45 drives, the 4U, but makes some more noise than a jumbo jet. Yeah, the HL15 is without the Noctua. It's noisy. So if you are worried about the noise, and to me, I have my servers in a different room. They're not in the same areas of studio, but I could kind of hear it when it was on. I was like, I think it's the loudest box I had in there was definitely the HL15 before I swapped to the Noctua. So I definitely think the fan upgrade's worth it. What does it mean to have a commercial email address? Many companies offer trials only for companies which could buy a domain, link it to the hoster, and they test the file. Do they test if there's a business behind it? Not to my knowledge. Almost always, like for example, many companies are using HubSpot. HubSpot's got a filter that I can turn on. We use HubSpot, and so I'm telling you how we can see things. And that filter says block Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, blah, blah, blah. It's, block personal email addresses. If we check that box, all it does is, validate that you're not at one of those common domains. So pretty much you could easily get away with just buying a domain that says some random big company.com, if that one's available, and no one would be the wiser to it. I think a lot of them, there's not even much validation going on that who you are or whatever. All you have to do is forever have a coming soon page, new business coming soon, and no one would think twice about it. Matter of fact, have ChatGPT write a fake business up. Make it look interesting. Unplugged is supposed to pick up some of the slack. I'm assuming. Okay, that's interesting. I should reach out to some of those people. I don't know that circle of people, and I really like 2.5 admins as part of that Linux community. So I'm actually putting in a red button for powering off all my UPSs. That is on my to-do list too. Next time in Chicago, you get a discount for me at the Hyatt. Absolutely. I'm trying. I don't have a trip planned for Chicago. There's not a ton of events there, but they pop up. Anyone using bare metal hosts? I've been using Vulture, thinking of switching to High Velocity. To my understanding, most email blocking for corporate just block Gmail and other regularly abused domains. Yep, pretty much. It's like kind of like I said, HubSpot is really popular amongst a lot of businesses to filter all the leads that are coming in. There's an option, like I said, just to drop them all. So I think it's an option just to drop personal domains, as they refer to them. Hey, thank you very much, Dan. Much greatly appreciated. Yeah, what else was I doing here? Back what I was actually talking about was this before we got on the sidetracked on a topic. People asking what's the replacement for some of the Optane and other slog devices. And it's actually this right here. It's the Edge card RMS 325, 12 terabyte, 12 gig user NVRAM Gen 3 card. This is actually what's in the photo that I took, and the questions come up a lot since technically the Optane ones, which there's still plenty of them on eBay, but they were discontinued. People were asking what an updated slog device is, if they need that, and what goes in a modern system. And this is definitely among the options that's somewhat affordable. You can actually find these on eBay and places like that. That doesn't break the bank. And this is good for things like doing ZFS if you need a slog device for things. So I thought I'd point that out. I have one. I was going to test it. I don't know why, but I was trying it earlier today and it wasn't booting when it was in the machine. And it's got a bad fan on it. So I also have to replace the fan on it. I have the slightly older model, but by the way, the slightly older model is still quite fast and you can find them on eBay as well. So yeah, definitely pretty neat. I did not watch Appleard's Adventure on Netbox yet. It is on my to-do list. Also, someone pointed out there's a fork of Netbox. So I don't really know which one to use. The original Netbox, the fork of Netbox. I don't know. I don't know what the pros and cons are of them. I can't remember the fork's name at all. Someone had said it during my Thursday live stream, and that information is now fallen out of my head. But I bet I could probably Google fork of Netbox and find it. Probably wouldn't be too hard to find. Love the channel. Your ubiquity coverage top notch. Awesome. Much appreciated. A bunch of gossip going around about Backblaze's finances. Well, first, how would you know? Is it is Backblaze publicly traded? To my knowledge, they're not, unless things. Oh, Backblaze is a public company. I guess they are. So Let's look up their stock price. Interesting. I mean, I'm no expert on this. Are they going down? What's the 5-year look like? Well, they went from 25 a share to trading at $4 a share. I don't know that that's bad. I mean, that's only a 76% drop on stock. I'm no expert. Doesn't sound good, but it doesn't mean they're going out of business. It just means there's not. It's a very commoditized thing, storage, and I don't know. Maybe their margin is not as good, so I can't really. I don't know. What are your thoughts on how the IT sector will perform in 2025? Do you believe the industry will start to recover? I don't know. I don't really. I'm by far not a expert on things like it, finance. That's not my expertise. I do know that tariffs cause problems. Unpredictable markets cause bigger problems. When you don't know what someone's going to do and you can't predict it, you get uncertainty in the market. You ruin consumer confidence and people don't want to buy things. So that is when you don't have stability. People don't invest when there's not stability. That's just kind of a general human thing. So when you go, well, how much will the price be? Well, it depends on how the trade war goes with the tariffs. That's not an answer. And that's not an answer anyone wants to invest on. So what the markets will look like is a very unpredictable thing. I do know at some point, someone's going to start asking questions about things like AI, because Microsoft, if you didn't know, has already canceled several $1 billion worth of data center building because apparently a company that loses $4 to $5 billion a year, turns out not everyone's interested in giving money to. So we'll see how the AI bubble goes. Yeah, I'm going to do the video of test. I'm not going to test out the newest model. I'm going to test out one generation before because that's probably more interested in the Homelab because it's also a lot more affordable. And I have it. I don't feel like buying another one. I have the one that's just the previous generation to it, which is still fast. Yeah, that sounds like the right name. Now to bot, not to bot. Yeah, that sounds. I don't know how it's spelled. Each of you have a different spelling, and one of them is correct. Maybe I don't know. I do not still use Zabbix though. I like Zabbix. I just lacked a need for it, and it kept breaking with some of the updates. And I said, why am I troubleshooting this? I just use net data and call it great. Like for the things I monitor, net data does a great job. I monitor like my forums. I monitor my website. I have some internal things with net data. I get alerts when it gets overloaded, and that's enough for me. I just have basic monitoring needs, which is why it's not a dig against Zabbix because Riley Chase, my friend who runs the company Hostify, he uses Zabbix. He uses it extensively. He's integrated into part of his not just monitoring, but action system for understanding what's going on with each one of the hosts that he has and each one that he has spun up. So he's done a deep integration to it, which is awesome. And, it's definitely useful for that. It just doesn't, it's nothing I need. How do you monitor your network gear at home and at work? Well, at work and for businesses, the two tools that are really popular in my space are Domots and Auvik. So those are like the two probably biggest tools in network monitoring for monitoring a bunch of client environments. Both of those are good solutions for it. At home, though, as I said, I have a UniFi stack. So at home, I have that. I have Uptime Kuma, which I barely have set up because I don't even think anyone would notice if anything goes down besides me. So I don't spend a lot of time monitoring it. If I guess I should probably keep an eye to make sure my NAS doesn't go down. If it did, I go, oh, look, I can't edit a video. I wonder why that thing's not on. So yeah, for my home stuff, it's just too simple. My things that are critical to me are monitored for, such as, like I said, net data is monitoring my website, which I have monitors on that. The things that matter that I have to run for more systems, forums and website. Forums gets about 70 to 90,000 visitors a week. So I want to make sure those visitors have a good experience. So I try to make sure that it's serving up pages fast. So I monitor that. I make sure it's up. And same with the website. I get a lot of visits to my website because that's how people contact me. That's how people hire us. Those are all reasons to keep those up. But the internal stuff is kind of Well, can I link those? Let me just pull up the pages on them. So this is Auvik. And then I'll pull the other one up. Domots. No, these need. Now I'm working out eventually because Domots has been a sponsor of the channel indirectly because it was before they acquired it. Sasleo was a sponsor of the channel that is currently by Auvik, but Domots has been a sponsor. They were a sponsor this year. I don't have an affiliate link for either one of these, but just so you know. Ever tried TarSnap? Just learned about it, but haven't kicked the tires. I've never used it, so no. Preferred EDR vendor. Sophos versus some of the other hotter names these days. I'm all in on Huntress. We really like Huntress. Huntress makes a really solid EDR program. So maybe you already talked about it, but check out the Internet in a Box project for offline data. Yeah, the Internet in a Box one looked interesting, but I believe when I tried some of it, it wasn't working right. The Kiwix project seems much better. But let me pull up. I'm assuming, yeah, this one here, internetinabox.org. Very similar to the other project, but I believe. Okay, so there's still some updates going on. Okay, cool. It's still getting updated. I had some trouble when I was setting it up, so I don't remember what problem I had with it. But I'll play with this one again too. The one I mentioned earlier, this one's just dead simple. That's one of the reasons I liked it so much was the low barrier of entry, and just they had all the Zim files linked and like, hey, here you go. So this one seemed like really easy, but I can explore the others. And when I do the video, I can give like the honorable mention. Like I tried Internet Box. It didn't really work for me, but it's a cool project. I'd like to see more development around there. So yeah. Yeah, Check MK. I'm trying to remember who just did a video about that. I believe trying to remember if you look up, there's one of my YouTube friends that has done a video. I believe it was Jim's Garage did a video on Check MK. But there's it's one of the ones I was going to look at. Steve from Security Now talked about how most web traffic these days is just AI crawlers, not the crawlers. Ignore robot and spoof. Aging AUs, they also use residential IPs. Yes. This was actually talked about extensively by the people at 2.5 admins because they have, I'm sure someone can call it the guy's name that's on there, but he runs really some of the blogs. It's not the guy from Clara Systems, but the other guy. Anyways, not to get off topic, the issue is the internet is getting absolutely hammered by these AI things that won't stop crawling the same data over and over again. And they're doing all kinds of shady things. Yeah, Jim Salter, there we go. Jim Salter talked about this maybe 1 or 2 episodes ago on 2.5 admins. And I've seen the same rhetoric from other people. Like these AI bots are just going bananas. I have been lucky. And I guess despite me asking if AI knew me, which it seems to know me quite well, it's crawled me from YouTube and has not bothered my forums. I don't have a bunch of, last time I checked, AI bot stuff hammering my forums. Cool. I don't know when it will happen, but I have a feeling it will. And then you end up with a bandwidth bill that kind of sucks. And I don't really know what to do about that. Neither does anyone else, especially because they're using all these residential IPs. They're doing some shady stuff, real shady stuff. Oh, so Jim did a video on Checkmate, not CheckMX. Okay, fair enough. What do you think of JetKVM? Just got mine. No static IP. Limited my use case. I mean, you can SSH in instead of static IP, but I don't. I have an assigned IP, so it gets the same IP all the time in mine. So that's why I don't think twice about it. I take in static. I have a couple Jet KVMs, so they get the same IP every time I turn them on. So it hasn't really. It's not an issue to me. But you can always SSH into them. They run Linux on the back end and set a static IP. Yeah, a lot of FOSS sites have problems with traffic costs. You know, it's not too bad, but everything starts adding up. You know, it costs me money to run my forums and I give them away for free. We're looking at doing some more Patreon things. It's trying to figure out how to fund things is an issue. You know, as much as I want to give everything away for free, I try, I kind of have hard, fast rules because I know, and I'm missing out on this because I know how much you can make doing it. There's a pause here because I'm like, I could be making a lot more money. You know, people ask me to like put classes together and then, you know, for the effort, I would have to put them behind a paywall, but it also kind of goes against some of how I feel about trying to keep information out there to really help people. And I figure it's a fair trade. Instead of paying me a monthly subscription, you can listen to me do an ad read and be able to get a tutorial on some topic that you're interested in. But yeah, it's going to, especially these FOSS people, it's going to hit them hard when you're just trying to host some websites. You're like, yeah, I pay out of my pocket so people can read this blog where I do write-ups that might help people. But now I suddenly went from a small hosting bill to a big hosting bill because I'm getting hammered by AI things. Yeah, the residential IP is like, yeah, definitely. That's the thing. I forget if there was what was explained to me, and what makes sense is that there's just these ISPs going, well, cool, we can rotate you through our IP block list or blocks of IPs, not block lists, but they can just rotate through IPs and then break all that kind of filtering that may occur from doing it. So definitely annoying there. Most of the AI bot stuff is being used by cybercrime. I guess if you consider OpenAI cybercrime, you can consider them somewhat there. They certainly have no problem stealing intellectual property, so you could look at them as a group of criminals. I would not argue with that perspective. And OpenAI is among the offenders. So is some of the OpenAI competitors are also among the offenders. So yeah, they're not hiding where they're coming from. Okay, so Jim's Garage did Checkmate and Christian Lempa did CheckMX. Awesome. Both those people are listed on my lawrencesystems.com site if you're trying to find their channels, but a quick Google search will find those channels quite fast. Greetings, Tom. Have you experimented with any of the Mellanox NVIDIA Spectrum switches that are supported by Linux driver? No, I don't have any of those. That don't really touch too many of the Mellanox switches. I mean, I'm kind of aware they exist, but they're not something I run into. I actually talked to someone the other day. We were talking about Nokia switches and their enterprise presence, and people are like, Nokia makes something other than the infamous phone. I think there's maybe we gravitate them, but they're also, I've made friends with a lot of these people. We started a group. So if you ever think that, hey, behind the scenes, I wonder if these people talk to each other, we do. As much as I invited a bunch of people to a group, and I'm not in a group as often as I'd like to be, because sometimes Discord gets overwhelming to me. but we, putting a bunch of YouTubers who are in a common thread. And the common thread to us is we're nerds first. Then we're people who want to share our nerd passions. We're basically show and tell for adults of look at what we can do and you can do it too. We'd like to teach you how. And so that's kind of the ethos of the group, is we're a bunch of people, a bunch of technologists, practitioners, if you will, that would like to share things with the audience, and if you're wondering if craft computing's in there, because he is, me and Jeff, we're talking today because I have his, these, I got to set this up for temperature monitoring. And I think this is a really cool device. Hello, Brett. How we doing today? Brett was hanging out with me yesterday. Tom was having fun yesterday. That's what Nokia mainly makes these days, right? I mean, the mobile name was sold. Yes, exactly. The mobile's sold to the, didn't Microsoft buy their hardware department? I think. I could be wrong. The Mellanox switches are shockingly cheap. They're popular to serve the home forums for folk that want InfoBand or 40 gig in their home. Matching the Mellanox NICs and DACs are also cheap. Yeah, absolutely an option. Watching Jeff for the beer reviews. Fair enough. Let me be clear. I'm not stating any enterprises committing cybercrime. Really? I'm pretty sure we could accurately describe OpenAI as a company built on the mass larceny of creative works. And Facebook trained theirs. If you read the Facebook stuff, pretty blatantly pirated a lot of stuff. I mean, they weren't even hiding it. When you start reading about the way these companies behave, they're like, we're rich enough that we'll just pay whatever fines if we get caught. Like, that's their attitude on this. And if you haven't heard, hold on, where's it at? This makes me happy. There's more people building this. A Labyrinth is an opt-in on a free plan. I might move. I didn't want to move my stuff to where it's Cloudflare, but this, boy, this makes me happy. And the fact that they do this, how they built a Labyrinth. This makes me really like Cloudflare. I know if you haven't read this is great. I'll throw a link here, but Cloudflare is building tar pits for AI, and it makes me happy because we're going to fight technology with technology. We're going to build a tar pit for you guys to get stuck in. Yeah, but Facebook didn't seed it back. Yeah. As if that's the problem. As if that's the real issue here, that they didn't seed back all the piracy. Yeah. Yeah. Then when DeepSeek did it better than them, I mean, I'm just kind of laugh. Oh, look, those who pirated just got upset by other people pirating their pirated stuff. Oh no, I feel terrible for all these awful people. And by the way, I'm very clear on this. I think AI has got some really interesting use cases. It doesn't mean I think that any of the people running the AI companies are good people. There's occasionally not good people that can do good things, and this is definitely the case. I don't care much for them. I don't worship any of them. I do not think they are geniuses. I think they are no smarter than me, you, or any of the other people that may be watching this podcast. I think they're people who are at the right place at the right time, and they're really good at talking people into giving them money. And I think that is more of their goal. The vehicle to put wealth in their bank account is AI and telling me it's going to be amazing next year. And it's amazing to me how many times they can keep telling me it's going to be amazing next year. And it's not amazing next year. It's like, oh, look, it hallucinated the completely wrong things again. Deep research, by the way. Yeah, that was I tried using some of that. It still is unimpressed. Still full of issues. I'm a virtual spirit animal for you. That's awesome. I'll take it. Do customers ask about this tech? I heard of people who implement this type of thing for their own self-hosted sites. Yes, no. I think there's a lot of curiosity. There's businesses who are more forward-thinking, who want to be closer to the cutting edge. What they're asking isn't about AI. You got to extrapolate the question and have the conversation with the businesses. They're not asking about AI. They're asking about how can technology, the things I'm hearing about in the news, AI being the current thing, how can that give me a competitive advantage? Is there a piece of technology I should have within my business that would give me an edge over my competitors? So that is the conversation they're asking. Once you extrapolate what they're asking, you try to figure out what is the inefficiency that I can help you solve. Is it a chatbot on your website? That's a potential one. It is a ability to better index the knowledge you have and take the AI system and use RAG to pull in some of your documents? Or is it to help your salespeople write a better email and help deal with sales objections? There's niches of usefulness in there, but you got to start with the real question at the beginning of what are they really asking? And mostly businesses are, my joke for many companies that don't like technology, I said, oh, you don't have to be on cutting edge technology. You don't have to innovate with tech. Your competitors will, and then you won't matter anymore. And that's the reality. I mean, there's definitely people who kept trying to sell the horse and buggy. Matter of fact, it's really cool to look at parallels of the automotive revolution and the people really upset that it was displacing the horse industry and the carriage industry. And that was not, there was, people just really talking down this whole car thing. Yeah, I've been going to look. There are some projects. I think that's Anibus, I believe, is one of them. There's people have mentioned them, so I want to see what I can do to keep self-hosting things, not involve Cloudflare, but also sync them in a tar pit if needed. I like all those ideas. What would you recommend to build a Homelab network, and what should I install on a budget? Really broad question, because Homelab networks are best when you start with a goal. Like, I would like my lights to be automated on and off, and I want to use Home Assistant to do it. Now you can build up to that. You can build up to that goal. You can go, I would like to, like I was mentioning earlier, self-host Wikipedia. Cool. We can build to that goal. So I can't really recommend a home lab without knowing what the home lab's going to have a use for. Maybe you want to learn Kubernetes. That's awesome. And you're like, cool. Then there's a recommendation path for that. So you always have to start with why or what's the goal, and then you can build backwards and spec for it. How do you handle backing up documentation, but store keys to restore backups in a different place? Who do backups store, et cetera, et cetera? Bitwarden. Bitwarden's the easiest way to do that. If I'm not mistaken, one of the things Bitwarden has added recently, didn't they? Where did I see this? Let me edit this. Was it Bitwarden that added this? Add website, add field. Or was it? There's but you can store keys in it, but I believe, yeah, they've added the ability to straight up store SSH keys in it, which is actually really slick. Well, that's cool. I realize it has it even has a key. I just looked at it right now. It has I've not used it yet because I use using other notes for that. Bitwarden also has secret managers. So it kind of depends on the scale you're operating at, but Bitwarden does have a tool called their secret manager as well. Another popular one for the home lab, I think the most popular is going to be KeyPass. KeyPass is, for most people, that's probably going to be the most popular. Yeah, Secret Manager is a separate piece. I think that's extra and it's not free. I think you're correct on that. It's been a while since I looked at it. Yeah, KeyPass XC is definitely cool. Yeah. So Hoodoo has built-in S3 backup, but HUDU is a really, if you type in like Hoodoo IT documentation, you'll find it. Once again, no affiliation with my channel other than we use them at CNWR for our documentation. Yeah, and this is why tabletops are so important. You got to walk through how are you going to rebuild and where are all those keys for all those things you're going to rebuild. And that's when you'll discover, if you try to walk through things like, okay, here's a empty computer. Please put my data back on it. And you're like, okay, cool. I need this. Well, no, let's walk through what broke. And when you start tabletopping that, you're like, okay, yeah, you can get an idea of where those gaps might be and where you need to make sure those keys are stored. Do you recommend using iSCSI for VM storage between XCP and TrueNAS? No, my preference is for NFS. It'll work with iSCSI, but NFS is better because it's thin provisioned and a little bit simpler. iSCSI will work, but I should probably do an updated video on it. To my knowledge, there's still no, especially in TrueNAS, no significant speed difference for iSCSI versus that. So last time I tested, there was all of like a couple % differences. As a matter of fact, some things NFS did better, some things iSCSI did better. There's not like a declared, this is the end all be all that is substantially faster. What's your thoughts on Google selling Chrome? I don't know how that's going to play out. It's, to me, too early to tell. There's still going to be appeals. Whether or not they'll actually get broken up, I don't know. I know what the judges say, but I don't know what's going to actually transpire. We had a discussion about this because some people think it's going to happen, and it's a crapshoot. What happens is when these companies, especially in the current environment we're in, they will obviously reach out to current administration and beg for mercy not to break up their company, which will probably come with some large campaign donations. And I can't predict if that will or will not happen, but it could. So there's no guarantee that I think it will actually be broken apart. I don't know. Do I think there's a monopoly problem? Oh, yeah. Did they violate it? Absolutely. All of them did. All these companies. I was on the internet prior to, and I love this saying, I was on the internet before the internet was just 5 big websites with screenshots from the 4 others. And that's the status of too much of the internet right now. Way too much control in too few places. I don't like that. This is one of the reasons why I am not just running around telling everyone they should be using Cloudflare. I don't like monocultures. It's not good, especially in the internet ecosystems. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm a pretty optimistic person, but I'm a little pessimistic on our current ability to break up monopolies. They seem to have a lot of power. I would love to see us end many of the monopolies and break them up, so the internet is a place more like it should be. But I'm trying to be optimistic on it. So I have an interesting problem with my pfSense SG3100 that randomly every 5 days or so, the DHCP server will crash and fail to recover. If you're seeing like it, any suggestions, check the logs. There's clearly something being exhausted that's causing it. I don't know what. The logs will tell you. You can also, in the short term, set the watchdog service up. If you look for the watchdog service that will restart the service if it fails, that's the solution to keep it running. But you're going to have to dig through the logs because there's something happening right when it crashes. And so it should be the last thing on the log. That is the easiest way or best way to really do it. Is it possible to replication? You can replicate TrueNAS. I don't understand the question fully, but yes, you can replicate TrueNAS to TrueNAS if that's the question. Have you tried Pangolin yet? Yes, we have. I'm waiting on, I'm going to bug him about it. I don't think he's watching. Matt Fox is going to be doing a video on it, but we're using it. Me and Matt have things set up with it. Google deleted and wiped out their entire cloud infrastructure to backups in AWS. Oh yeah. That was a hell of an incident. That was interesting. Dear Tom, why hasn't pfSense moved to a better responding web interface, more like UniFi? They just don't have the developers for it. All my batteries are lithium battery UPSs. I manage a few networks for my family, including a small farming op pfSense across the board with advances in UniFi gateways. It's finally time to take the jump and move everything over. Yeah, I'll be honest. UniFi makes it really easy, especially for things like managing the computers at a remote site. I do that even for my kids now. I put UniFi in at my kids' houses, and because dad's going to do the tech support for them. None of my kids are into tech, and it does make it, they just made it really, really pain-free. And besides playing games and watching YouTube and things like that, the kids are completely happy on it. Greetings from Houston, Texas. My wife just got back from Dallas yesterday. Everything's a little bigger in Texas. That's what I hear, at least. Have you heard about the eMNC network worn out issue? I have heard people talk about it. I have not witnessed it with all the deployments we have. People seem overly concerned that in the past, years ago, eMMC was definitely, in memory in general, was not the same as it is today. I've had 0 of them wear out. I'm not saying there's never been a bad piece of eMMC memory. I'm just saying across all the deployments we have across all of our clients, we have had 0 of the 6100s fail because of it. I'm not saying yours didn't fail because of an eMMC worn out. I'm just saying we haven't experienced it. And I've mostly seen people talk about, oh my God, I can't believe they used eMMC, versus I've seen a very few number of people telling me that it failed. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying it never does, but sometimes people are, if you're trying to do something, and I don't recommend using Squid at all, but if you're using Squid and you wrote it to the eMMC, you're definitely going to put a lot more wear and tear in it. And it just goes for any drive. If you have a drive that you are turning up the logging to the max on or anything like that, then you should look at other drives. That is one of the support features of the 6100s, to have some more drives. And that's a good name for it. I have needed CNAME and UniFi 0 times, so I don't completely understand the use case. Like, I guess I need to make one DNS entry and several CNAMEs for it. I don't know. I just pop in some DNS entries and called it great. I guess maybe I don't use the computer the same way you do. So that's a me thing. Do you think pfSense is abandoning open source? I'm going to say no. And the reason why, and I've had this conversation and people seem to have a hard time with this. pfSense is one of the top contributors to FreeBSD. To say they're banning open source would be completely wrong. To think that, I pointed this out before, OpenSense doesn't contribute back to the BSD project. If they do, they certainly don't have it. They don't even make it on the 1% list according to the BSD chart of who does the contributions. The top contributors to BSD are Netflix, Juniper, and Netgate. Those are, there's a few others in there. Clara Systems still does some BSD work. There's a few other companies out there that make some percentages on there, but Netgate is among the top. So to say that they're not contributing, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Doesn't make much pfSense to me. You suspect you're using NTOP, wrote too much logs. I was not versed in the potential dangers of running packages like that. I don't feel NetTop would write that much. It's just a database writing out some of the stuff, and it doesn't keep that much. I don't feel like that should be enough to kill it. Usually the things I think of, and I don't know why people are still trying to do this, but there's definitely somewhere out there trying to do this, is people who try to run Squid and try to cache the internet. I don't know why they're trying to cache the internet. Well, I know why they think they are. They think it'll go faster, but yeah. Because I ran NTOP for a long time on my eMMC, and I never, it seemed to work perfectly fine. I never had a problem with it. I never experienced any issues. And I ran it on a 6100 at work. We swapped it out for an 83, and we also ran it on a 4200, the newer one. I was using a 4200 before I switched to UniFi. So not sure. What are the dangers of running packages of the eMMC? In general, this is just a thing with Flash. You have so many, there's a finite number of them. You only have so much wear leveling you can do. Therefore, the eMMC, I don't know what percentage it is. This varies by manufacturer. Like we have X number of extra that we can swap out. So if something goes bad, we can swap it out, and that's wonderful. But yeah. But this is the part where people are wrong. It does not have a short life. The old, like if you have an eMMC from 10 years ago, yes. The matter of fact, if you have flash storage from 10, 15 years ago, eMMC was popular then, you have stuff with a short life. That's the nature of the way we made memory then. Memory is way better now. Flash storage has improved dramatically, but there is still wear, especially in the, what is that one? Is it QLC? The QLC has a lot more wear on it than some of the other ones. That's why enterprise drives aren't built with QLC. So there is a large variety of wear leveling that comes with any of these, but the eMMC they use has pretty good wear leveling in it, because I've talked to the engineers and had the same question. You have any NAS cases you like and recommend? Not really. Besides the 45 drives ones, I haven't ran across, because this also, I don't review many of them, but I don't know many other NAS cases out there. 45 drives, we have a lot of them. I think they're great. I know they're not they're the premium brand in the market. There is another one that people have brought up quite a few times. So I'll bring these up because people like them. I think they look cool. And that's this company here. SLIGER. They make custom NAS cases, and they look nice. I've not bought these. Hey, look, they updated their site to say no tariffs because they're built in the U.S. So I guess no tariffs is really, I don't know if you're in the U.S. Yeah, the HL15 is awesome. I like my HL15. I like my HL8. I think they're awesome, but I know your budgets vary, and that's where things get tougher. If so many times you'll end up stuck on an old plan, and they're happy to take your money and not provide you service because you never called them. So that's definitely, that's the thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say somewhat they're unscrupulous, but they probably did at least try to send a notice. Hey, you can get on a new plan, because I get notices from my provider, and by switching plans, matter of fact, the last time I switched plans, I got faster internet for the same price. But if I wouldn't have switched plans, I would have been on the slower one for the same price. It cost me nothing more per month to upgrade plans. It did cost me, agreeing to a year agreement, but whatever. They lock the price in for a year if I sign for a year. Okay. Screwdriver. Too much issue. Oh, yeah, I think the I don't have any problems with the design. My problem, when I look at all these other ones and like this company here, I don't like that they're not toolless, because I like toolless cases a whole lot. And 45 Drives nails it in terms of toolless cases. So that is when you're putting, especially when you're putting in like 60 drives at a time, yeah, you suddenly, it's 60 drives. And if we have to even put two, many times it's four, but two drives, there's 120 screws that got to be put in. Oh, wait, you got to put 4 screws in? Oh, great. Now we're up to 240 screws to put in so we can load these 60 drives. You said iStar USA has a toolless one. Let's look at it. United States. Look a lot like a Super Micro. It's trayless. Does that also mean it's toolless? Nope. I see a lot of screws here. Why can't you show me? I mean, drive not included. Why can't we just be nice and show me a close-up? Do I need screws in this thing? That's all I want to know. I'm probably reading it. So pan switches, security, front connector, motherboard, cooling fan. Download? Product drawing. There we go. There's the board. Why can't they just put that information? Am I the idiot looking for it and I can't see it? Trayless is toolless. Is it? Okay. As long as it is, that's cool. Trayless rack mount server. I assume based on the way it looks like it goes in, but it'd be nice if they had it. I mean, it looks like the drive just slides in. So yes, okay. I see. I'm looking at how that goes in. Who else has it? I think Super Micro makes something like that. I could be wrong. You just push it in, close the front. Fair enough. How does it fit 2.5-inch drives, or does it? I've always been curious about the redundant PSU that fits an ATX form factor. Have you played around with one, and with that kind of PSU in your home lab? I have not. I just didn't see the need for it. Nothing is so critical in my home lab that I'd want to have another. Maybe my NAS, but I don't know. I keep an extra ATX power supply. I literally have an extra ATX power supply sitting there to drop in if one of my, because several of them have the same power supply or similar power supply. Like, I have an extra, and it's not that hard to swap. So it's not been a critical issue to me. And because my home lab is very dust free, and I also keep my servers really clean, I haven't really worried too much about it. Power supply failures are less common over the last few years than they have been in the long time ago, especially when I have a double conversion UPS, which means the power is really smooth coming to it. It's very dust free. It's also roughly, because it's in my basement, about 70 degrees in my basement. So they're never facing much heat. So it's not been a concern. And just in general, we don't have as many power supply failures anymore. So I don't spend a lot of time. That's not my concern. So you just got to throw them in a caddy for the drive. That makes sense. I've used the toolless trays, UniFi, UniVR. The toolless as long as they are 3.5. Yeah. Okay. So similar to, I guess, right. UniFi has those too. Fair enough. That's cool. I would have to look up. I can't remember the model number on them now. So hold on. Trying to remember what model I have. I have the one from Extreme Power. I've linked it in my video. Hold on. Watch my video for my Homelab tour. I have the details in there. I don't remember what batteries are in them, but I have the model and it says in there. I just not going to pull up that video right now. Yeah. If you're not overstressing them and they're not full of dirt and you're not in a hot environment, generally speaking, they all just keep working. And I've not had, it's been a while since I had a power supply failure. Even in the commercial stuff, I see probably fewer of them. It's not zero, but even you buy these used Dell servers, the power supplies, we get them for customers sometimes for backup things. We'll put in a Dell like 740 used with dual power supplies in it, but that's not common for those to fail. They just rock on, which is great. That's what you want. All right, close those tabs. Trevor, if I had anything else in particular to talk about, so I might wind this down here in a bit. We've been going for pushing 2 hours. Is there any other questions people want to ask? What are those things you want to know? And throw those questions out here. You know what? If you have a gaming PC, it's not a terrible idea to have a UPS on it, especially this is just something to really consider here. With your gaming PC, if there's a minor flicker in the power, would you be upset if you're in the middle of a match? Or you would just finish that quest and the autosave hasn't kicked in? I'd probably really recommend at least a minor UPS, man. I always had one sitting on the floor years and years ago when I was more into gaming. That's actually what I'm going to do today is play some games. I kind of need to zone out and play games. I have become maybe a little bit more obsessed than I should have. Speaking of games, so we'll pull up my gaming profile. So I've acquired a lot more friends, which I think is great. But if you head over to lawrencesystems.com and you go down the bottom, I do have my Steam link right here. And you can click it and you can feel free to friend me and games. I've played way too. We can play games together if you want. If you play one of the games, really, honestly, I just keep playing this game because I like it so much. I built my NAS in 2017 from consumer stuff, including PSU. Still going strong. Yeah. Is there a way to fit the half height Radeon RMS cards into a full height slot? I don't know. Not I think so. What pre-built DIY have you tested? Are you instant test more stuff like A Booster, WTR Max? I don't know what I'm missing some context for that question. Do you think pfSense is losing customers now that UniFi zone-based firewalls? Oh yeah, probably. I think there's probably a lot of people that have switched because that was a big hang up. And I talked many years about deploying UniFi and pfSense, but the zone-based firewalls make it a lot better, and it makes it way easier to manage. And one of the things that UniFi really has an advantage for it, I thought about doing, and well, not thought about, I'm going to do, I just haven't gotten around to it, a video on how to use UniFi as a managed service provider, because they've got some really nice tooling that makes it easy to manage lots of clients running UniFi. pfSense is working on that, and they've been working on it for a long time. But that's where, having a central dashboard that makes it easy to get to all your client sites, it's a cool feature, and UniFi's there with it. And if you're already running UniFi for the network for the client in terms of like access points and switching, throwing in the firewall, and for many small businesses, it's kind of an easy fit. So I do see probably a lot of people will be moving. I've known a lot of people are already using UniFi and weren't using pfSense. They were using it even before, but the zone-based firewalls in version 9, they finally got the firewalls in a more sane way to manage them. You can set quotas in TrueNAS to, you can quota up the data set. So you could set it so it'll only stop at whatever the quota is. With the UPS game machines, you need to make sure that it will cover the peak draw when the new, more powerful graphics card and CPU. Yeah. I switched to a gaming laptop, and definitely, even a laptop, there's a lot of power draw. It's got a brick that came with it. I have 2 more questions. When you do an HA router deploy, you use VRP or CARP. What's your favorite model of WAN switch? It depends. It's not like I choose the protocol. The protocol is going to be whatever the firewall uses. So if you're using pfSense, pfSense is using CARP, and UniFi, I believe, is using VRP. I think I don't have that backwards. One of those brain farts. So if you're doing high availability with UniFi, you're going to use what UniFi uses. If you're using high availability with pfSense, you're going to do what pfSense uses, because neither one of them have the option to use a different protocol. Notice in a multi-state IPsec tunnel between pfSense and UniFi, the UniFi didn't want to send local DNS entries across the tunnels. Any advice? I don't know. I haven't really tried that, so I don't have an answer to that particular question. I don't know why it wouldn't send DNS. What made you bite the bullet and become a business owner? I just got sick of working for other people, I guess. I don't know. I was too dumb to know what I didn't know. So I was like, well, screw this place sucks. I'm going to go start my own business. This is also why I've given a talk many times. You can find it on my business technicality channel called I Hate My Job Is Not a Business Plan. It's really not. Throwing it out there. Not everybody should just start a business. I'm not gatekeeping. I'm warning you. I managed to succeed over the last almost 22 years in business. Wow. Yeah. 2025 in September, because if you want to get pedantic, and sometimes all of us are, I started my company in September of 2003. So it'll be 22 years in September of 2025. So pretty wild. Have you tried Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered? My son keeps telling me I should. I have not, but my son, he plays a lot of games and said it was pretty amazing. How do you document your Homelab? I'm looking for it because I look through a move and I don't want to go forget more configs. I use Logseek as my knowledge management tool, and I just write up what I do in there. I just create documents, kind of like, hey, here's how I set this up or how I set that up. Then I use Bitwarden for password management, and it's not much anymore. It's not really. I also have some draw.io diagrams I use, so I reference some of those. Once UniFi does custom QoS stuff, well, you're in luck. 9.1 has custom QoS stuff. I covered that in the video. I also don't know. I don't know if it is what you're looking for, but let me bring it up, because someone may, this is what we're talking about. So if we go here, routing, where is the custom QoS stuff? Here we go. But yeah, you can do custom applications and do prioritization. So here's some biz apps, and here's online games, and here's how you create new. You got limiters and prioritize and limit, object, blah blah blah. All the features are in here now for it. There's a new feature they added in 9.1 to give you a lot more features around custom QoS. Yes. You can do that for privacy VPNs. You can do the kill switch. That is a feature as well. I've covered that in my 9.0 video. So we go to VPN. Where's that setting at? Oh, it's right here. Derp. There we go. So this is a interface VPN tunnel, and this allows you to route it out wherever you want. And then you have the kill switch button, which allows that. So I started the company the same year you were born. That's interesting. Yeah, I've had several businesses over the years. So Lawrence Systems has existed the entire time. I'll call everything else I did a side quest. And they were sub companies, essentially. Even though they were independent, they were side projects to Lawrence Systems. If you see branding, if you dig around through the history of me, you'll find branding for Suburban Electronics, Suburban Computers, PC Pickup, and that's all of it. That's related to tech anyways that I started. So those were other brands essentially that I ran under my company. But yes, Lawrence Systems has always existed though for the entirety of these since 2003. I recently set up pfSense with the help of your videos. I'm wondering if I should switch to UniFi. I haven't looked much at the documentation. Does UniFi have something like PF Blocker? No, so the difference still is between UniFi and pfSense. pfSense gives you way more options. UniFi is a much more, not set it and forget it, but set it and it works. And I think UniFi is nice for that. But if you want to tinker with things, you want to get into detailed block lists and play with them, pfSense is going to give you way more control over it. I use LibreOffice Calc and LibreOffice Impress to document mine. I really need to update my docs, but I lacked motivation. Yeah, I like local documents. That's when I was talking about SyncThing about 30 minutes ago. I'm literally talking about saving local documents that I was creating in LibreOffice when I do things. I still like local. People ask why I don't run Nextcloud. I'm like, because I haven't really had a need for it. Not everything needs to live in my browser. Matter of fact, I find LibreOffice to be very good and very easy to use. What do you use in place of MediaWiki for customer documentation? I mentioned this earlier. CNWR uses Hudu, Hudu. Do you mean this video, Business Talks? I hate my job is not a business plan. Yep, that's a video I did. Yes. What makes storage system like NetApp, Dell, HP special compared to making your own storage, e.g. with TrueNAS? Well, you see, if you're someone like NetApp, Dell, or HPE, and HPE is, I think, bought several storage companies. I think they own Nimble is one of them. They own a couple different storage companies. Anyways, they have to pay an entire division of marketing people to go set up trade show booths and everything else. They also have to pay a bunch of resellers because you can't buy them directly. No. You must buy them through a value added reseller who will probably add no real value, but certainly will add a 30% markup. So by the time you're done, you've now paid all this extra money for a proprietary system that can almost perform as well as TrueNAS. And that's it's funny when we're bidding. I need to talk more about this. Maybe I don't know if this is a business talk or a technology talk, but we installed for a client and they took a gamble on us, and it's paid off very, very well for them. They've now spent several million with between Lawrence Systems and CNWR on projects for TrueNAS. And we've done several movie companies and we've replaced these proprietary systems. They're scratching their head because our bid was like, $300,000 to get this project going. The other people were bidding 900 and 1.2 million and things like that for similar storage. And they're like, there's no way you can do it for that price, Tom. And I'm looking at myself going, I'm making money at this. And yes, I can. And it's just the delta between what a Nimble storage box or what a NetApp box costs. It's just crazy. And they don't perform. I'm not impressed with them. They're not a terrible product. I'm not telling you they're bad, but they've got a lot of built-in cost. Not to mention when you have to build your own testing ecosystems versus TrueNAS has an amazing testing ecosystem called All of You. I mean, you don't have to run cutting edge. You can run a version back. That's how TrueNAS does their enterprise stuff, is like one version behind. But you also have a massive crowd of contributors in the open source community. So embracing open source is a much better way to do it, in my opinion. With 9.0, 9.1 setting up DHCP better. Yes, I'd say it's gotten a lot better. I seemed the issue with setting up an IP and UniFi would complain because it was different IP when DHCP. I haven't really had DHCP issues since the latest updates. What are your thoughts on doing IT consulting on the side while having a 9 to 5? You can. One of the things, just big picture talk here, if you're a part-timer with things, you may not put all your passion into it. With me, I left a really good job. When the last job I had prior to starting, even back then, we're talking 2003, I was making just around, and adjusted for inflation, it'd be different, but I was making a little bit under $100,000 a year. It's like 90 something thousand. And if you adjust for inflation, it's about $120,000 a year in today's money, or 127, something like that. But so I left a career, and one of my reasoning in my head, and this is not business advice, this is just what I did. I figured if I don't have a plan B, plan A has to work. So I put a lot of hours in and started my business, but not everyone's in that position. I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's a right path to do it. It's all about the mentality of motivation. And it turns out Hungary is motivated because there wasn't anywhere else for town to pull money from. I went from making money to $0 and figuring it out. And you have to figure it out fast, or you'll be eating ramen noodles a lot. I liked ramen noodles still, but that's what I survived on, was a lot of inexpensive food. I'm running iSCSI thinly provisioned. I'll let ZFS handle the allocation part. Yeah, you can do that. Why do we keep hearing that Nextcloud and TrueNAS is a bad idea? The problem comes down to how they implemented it. It's TrueNAS. I don't understand why more care isn't put into the way it updates. It seems to explode on update, and I don't always know why, but it's a TrueNAS problem because NetCloud itself is relatively stable. But I don't know why there's some changes that seem to cause it to have some breakage. So, yeah. Okay. Trying to figure out what that noise was. But the breakage that happens means people have contacted me for recovery. I lost all my Nextcloud documents because the simple answer is reload, but then they realize they set up a volume and didn't do a data pointer the right way. And yeah. How do I fix anti-tethering? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one. I found that the NetApp snapshot directories are super useful for fixing my screw ups. Does TrueNAS have that ability? Yeah, you can. A lot of these companies run ZFS under the hood, so yeah, you can have. I've got a video and even showing how ZFS snapshots can be presented as SMB. I'm sorry, not as shadow volumes over shadow copies via SMB. Make sure I get the wording right there. I did a video on that, so yes. You compared IX system with NetApp, and you said the cost is about the same. Interesting. I know. See, I don't always know because I'm not a NetApp reseller at all. I know what people bid on projects, and so I'm not comparing apples and oranges to the price. I compare. Here is our quote for 45 drives, IX systems, whatever we're putting in, and to achieve the performance and storage volume that they're asking for. The other people will have their complete installed for it. Now, it could be that they're just charging more than us as well, but I'm not calling NetApp and trying to compare it directly to IX systems because we do TrueNAS. We don't even, like I said, not even a reseller for NetApp or HPE or any of the other companies. I love pfSense myself, rarely using all the cool features. So putting back the USG with completely single pane of glass, my OCD. Yeah, it's not bad. Oh, yeah. Screenshots are even for little things like OBS, which is the tool I use to ingest media for my recordings. If you watch my studio tour, I first do screenshots of all my settings, but also all the other settings for things such as even my lights. These are all stickered, and I got stickers on all my devices. I put what those settings are. I screenshot them. I print them out and stick them to the cameras. Everything in case anything gets bumped is always set, or for some reason gets reset. So yeah, screenshots are a big savior. I save a lot of screenshots of things because not everything has a config backup, or especially in the case of like your AT&T fiber modem. Yeah, you never know when they're going to just reset it on you. I would think that some of the costs of the commercial storage solutions have support, as in if the company has a local guy, that neighborhood that's capable. Yeah, it's a little bit of that too, but we had to work because we were doing a migration. We learned working with the HPE support was garbage. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons they contacted us. They had a support contract, and dealing with HP was so much pain, it wasn't worth it. And it was just, a lot of crazy there. I don't run any TrueNAS apps. I'm moving my Docker to TrueNAS just to use Docker Compose up. Yeah. Are you fully on DaVinci Resolve now? Yeah, I've been using DaVinci Resolve for a number of years, and I still use the Steam Deck for live switching. No, StreamYard. So I've had some trouble, and I don't know. I got to figure out how to troubleshoot this. When I'm using StreamYard, like I am now, to display these messages, works wonderful. But when I'm in OBS, somewhere along the lane, one of the updates, when I'm doing live streams from it, occasionally it freezes, not the computer, just the frame. And I can close OBS, I can open OBS, it'll keep freezing and it won't send anymore. I don't know why. I do know the solution: reboot. If I reboot the computer, it starts working. It does something to lock up the graphics card, and I don't know what. So I don't use OBS for the live streams. That I'm doing consulting while having 9 to 5. I basically search for the lowest effort 9 to 5, 9 to 4. Actually, that's another strategy. There's a lot of different strategies. Whatever strategy works for you, I think, is what's more important. Have a strategy. That's the most important part. Far as I know, NetApp, and I could be wrong. I thought NetApp was using ZFS on the back end. They might put some special sauce on it, but I'm pretty sure it's all ZFS. What do you do when a colleague or company steals your customers? Shrug my shoulders. I don't know. It's not been an issue. I don't know. It's not something I really uh, had to address. You know, it happens. I mean, I can't really name two. I don't have any colleagues that stole it. I did have someone who tried years ago. God, I've got a ton of horror stories, of course. Not a ton, but a few. There was an employee. I bought his company. It was going out of business essentially. But I said, look, dude, you need some money. You need a job. You have some customers. Let's work out a deal. We went to lunch. We worked out a deal. I even employed him for a while, and he thought that was cool because, you know, he just didn't have money to pay his family's bills and stuff like that. He was really bad at running a business. That's the best way I could describe it. But anyways, I acquired him and his clients, and he had this bright idea after about 8 or 9 months and seeing how I ran the business that he could run one too. So he thought it'd be a fun idea to start up another business and hand out cards when he went to clients of mine and say, Tom's going out of business any day now. And it took zero time at all, because my clients know me very well, this is probably 8 years ago, to reach out to me and let me know what they thought of him. And one of them verbally berated him for even suggesting that. And so that led to him being fired. So it was like, stupid people. I don't understand what made him do that. But yeah. I've never had that many people that wandered off to a colleague. Have you used TrueNAS as a proper SAN over fiber channel? I have not used TrueNAS with fiber channel. You bought a Nimbot label maker? I like my Nimbot label maker. Some people hate it because they're telling me the labels are proprietary, and they're not wrong. I also told them, spend 10 seconds Googling how to bypass the little sensor on it. But second, they're so inexpensive. If they were to lock me in and raise the price, I'd probably find another label maker, but the labels are really cheap. And most companies have, like, it's rare. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Outside of like a sheet of Avery labels, when you're buying a roll of labels, you pretty much always have to buy the roll of labels for the brand you have. Granted, I know they put a little chip in there, but bypassing it's not hard. There's several videos showing like they didn't put a lot of effort into the way they bypassed their chip. But I don't know where you would get the third-party ones. And I think it cost me, I got like 1,000. You can catch them on sale, like 1,000 labels for like $10 or something. So yeah. Screen recording is documentation. Can verify. I document things on YouTube. Oh yeah, Basic, you got the Nimbot for you as well. That's awesome. Like I said, I like the Nimbot. I use it all the time. Hey, how's it going, Bearded IT Dad? We should probably reach out and BS sometime. Hopefully things are going well on your side of the world. Dude, he was an idiot. He was not a bad technician. He just had no clue how to run a business. That's how he ended up in the situation that led them to me. And then for him to try to start a company, he joined the live stream once. I couldn't, he's got a unique name, and I don't think anyone else has that name. And he joined the live stream, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And I couldn't help myself. I seen his name and he says, "Hey, Tom, you remember me?" Which makes me think it really was him. To which I immediately replied, "I remember firing you." And then he didn't say anything else. That was, I couldn't help it. It's like, I was like, I don't like you much. Because even after he got fired, he used his name, by the way. He didn't hide himself. He left me a bunch of bad reviews using his name. And as I mentioned, unique name, clearly him. I was like, okay. Stupid, but sure. How can you use Ceph storage as a backend for VM disk storage? Can Ceph advertise NFS? So there's different ones. You can do Ceph. There's Ceph can be natively integrated into things where things can talk directly to Ceph, or Ceph can be presented as NFS. So you have, the name eludes me right now. Someone will probably say it in here, but there's a way you can have a layer where it presents as NFS, because Ceph can Present as NFS, can present as SMB. It'll support either one of those. So there's absolutely a way that you can do that. Another happy Nimbot user. Awesome. It is already possible in 2025 to create a single board computer setup that has relatively low power, can handle more HDs with RAID Z, doesn't run frying temperatures, and is completely silent. Is it already possible? I don't know how good ZFS works if you're looking at ARM devices. That's right now. I don't know the answer to that. I'll be able to poke around Jeff Geerling's videos on it. It is really tough to run a business and do the work at the same time. Yeah. From the early days, I've always had more staff. I was kind of solo, but I always had at least one or two people working for me from the very beginning. Not as much on the consulting side. The consulting took a long time before I had anyone else. So Lawrence Systems was always a enterprise tech consultant project work type thing. All the other stuff I did, like for one example, when I had the electronics repair store, had staff. People working the counter that checked in customers and several technicians fixing things. So I always had employees on all those things. It took a long time before my consultancy ever got it, because training people to be consultant like I am is very different. But the business side of the other business side for like the retail computer store, that was not ever really a solo project. Do you have experience with UISP router? I'm considering buying a UISP. I do not have any experience with that. And I have even less experience. We don't use PPOE much here in the United States. It's the usage isn't zero, but it's not much. And because of that, I don't have a lot of answers on PPOE. I worked with a guy in retail years ago who was useless. He got sent for retraining, and even they gave up. He didn't understand why he was sacked. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Tom, we meet again. The art of being a good business owner. Yeah, maybe delegating is part of it. Leading people, all those things. It's complicated. Isn't ButterFS supposed to be coming into its own recently? I would not say ButterFS is going to be comparable to ZFS. ButterFS is a runner-up. Definitely not comparable. Runner-up. It's not terrible, but it's not ZFS. ZFS and ARM should be much better supported since Meta, Google, AWS all have their own ARM processors for storage purposes. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know where ZFS on ARM lands right now. How do you manage restore orchestra? I'm assuming you mean Zen Orchestra and just restore from backup. You can honestly, like, if for bare metal restore, you can just download it and deploy it from their site really easily. You just use the XOA deploy and log in, and away you go. Thinking using a cloud gateway fiber, but using the fiber to connect to local servers instead of the WAN connection. Yes, as of 9.1, this is when the feature got here. As of 9.1, yes, they have all kinds of reassigning of ports. I actually have one. We can pull it up. But they have done a lot to be able to modify the ports. Actually, you can add WAN ports and choose different ports for things. I think, and this is what I don't know, could you reassign WAN? Yeah, I imagine this would free it up to be LAN. I don't know. I can't do it right now, so it'd break it. Post in our forums to see. I think you can reassign this. I know you can add more WAN now, but maybe you can reassign that to a LAN. I've not done much with Frigate, but there's plenty of other people who have. So there are better people to ask than me on it because I'm just haven't used Frigate. Do you ever go to any IT adjacent conferences like Automate in Detroit? Just to see what other tech is out there. Sometimes, not often enough, maybe. I should go to some more of them. You know, I have 2 3D printers that I haven't used in like a year. So I need to set them. One day I'll set them up and get into 3D printing again. My staff used to use them after the merger and we moved my Southgate office. No one used the 3D printers anymore. So they're just getting dusty right now. I need to get back into them on my to-do list. Does anyone know what is the currently recommended MongoDB for the UniFi controller? State still blabbering about 3.6. Yeah, they're still using the older Mongo. Hey, Lawrence, not a question, but thank you for your videos and what you do. They've got me into starting my own Homelab with pfSense. That is awesome. And eventually pursuing a degree in cyber. Well, I wish you the best of luck with your degree in cyber. That is wonderful to hear. Cyber is definitely a fun, broad thing. Suggestions on disaster recovery using open source tools. You know, if you're talking about Windows recovery, there's not a lot of, maybe there are, but there's not a lot I'm aware of good tools. For XCP-ng, I've done a whole disaster recovery video recently. So if you're building everything on top of something like XCP-ng, it's easy to put together a disaster recovery plan because it's built in. Has anyone tried Seaweed FS? I certainly have not. Question. I have TrueNAS server on 10 gig network, the few ESXi hosts. Problem is VM data store performance is over NFS is really bad. Yet on TrueNAS, read-write performance is decent. I would guess that you probably have synchronization turned on. You can probably turn synchronization off, and that would benefit. There is some risk with turning sync off, but it will definitely give you a lot better performance. Next option to keep sync on to keep that extra level of integrity is to have a really fast slog device, and that will help boost performance for ZFS synchronized writes. Just got here. If this has already been asked, ESXi depot needing tokens. Finding someone to host the patches. Yeah, I can't really answer that question. Yeah, watch my video on XCP-ng and NFS, and I cover that topic in that video, so you can apply it to ESXi. It's much the same. Because NFS is NFS. And what you're doing when you have synchronized writes turned off, the risk is when you send an NFS write, the NFS waits to confirm the write was completed. What sync off means is lie. It's basically saying, tell the requester we completed the write, but have you? Don't talk about that. We're going to get the write done. It's in its way. The data's on its way to writing it to the drive. And generally speaking, if there's not a power loss in those few potential seconds, there's no data loss. So it's not a massive risk, but it is a concern. I imagine if you're talking about the boot system, you could just clone it with Clonezilla, but it's really not needed. And let me explain. With TrueNAS, I don't bother cloning any of my boot drives. All I do is make a backup of that config file because that's all you need. So if you replace a boot drive, and I've covered this before on replacing boot drives in TrueNAS, you simply reload TrueNAS. So drive goes, let's say, completely flatline dead. The boot drive or pair of them in your case to reduce pairs are great because reduce potential failure. That config file is all you need. So you reload TrueNAS, put a new drive in, reload TrueNAS, upload config, success. That's it. That's as long backing up the config file is way easier than using something like Clonezilla. So absolutely a great idea. Make sure you have a backup of that. I can recommend Intel Optane drives or Slog or special VDEVs. Too bad they're not produced anymore. PCIe 5 NVMe drives are still solid. Sync off is like fire and forget it. It's, I've covered the risk is low, and obviously mission critical. This is I'm presuming we're talking about Homelab, so we're making some presumptions here that you're doing this in a Homelab environment versus what we do for enterprise is going to be different because enterprise frequently, especially if it's database writes and transactional things that absolutely cannot be lost. Yeah, we're definitely going full high performance system, full slog, writes, syncing, etc. But it's really not that big of a deal. And I need to do a new torture test video. I think that's what we're coming up with here because I've done it before. And if you are wondering, because someone says, well, Tom, is ZFS is as good as when you did that torture test video all the way back in 2018? I'm like, it's gotten better. So time for a new torture test video. Hey, Tom, just saw your pfSense. You can choose beta 2.8. Where do you find the beta? How do you follow? On GitHub, Netgate doesn't cite to when you download their installer, you get the Netgate installer and there's an option to install it for 2.8 now. Yeah, please make sure your TrueNAS config file is stored on your TrueNAS server. No, do not do that. Make sure you have a place where you back up all your config files. That's important. Yeah, kernel panic might be encountered under heavy load. I haven't run into that with any of the systems, but yeah, make sure you, especially that backup of your TrueNAS config. If you're using any encryption, the keys for that encryption are in that config. It's not just the data. And I've had that happen where people want me to help recover their TrueNAS, and we go to import the volume, and it would like the keys that volume had attached to it. If you didn't back it up, you don't have those keys. That's where the recovery process stops. That I know of, I'm not aware of any auto backup tools in TrueNAS for their config. My general process for many things is when I go in and I make configuration changes, I then download that config as a backup. And I'm not making configuration changes very often at all in any of my TrueNASs. So it's not even that I don't have to back them up often because I don't change shares very often, and I don't change the pool around or create new things in the pool that would, potentially, like, I'm not storing any passwords in it because I use key phrases as opposed to the built-in encryption of the key one that's stored in the config file. So if I need something encrypted, I'm using a passphrase, which means it's not stored in the config file. So I very rarely have to back up my TrueNAS. Usually it's the initial setup. I back it up, and then maybe I create a bunch of tasks like snapshot tasks, replication tasks, etc. So I back up the config file whenever I change those. But once they're set, I don't change them very often. Yeah, storing the same pool encryption key file in the same pool. What could possibly go wrong? Oh man, definitely have been there. Hey, Tom, just want to say thank you. A year ago, I started my journey in networking with a Protect Tele Vault, pfSense, and a Lawrence System tutorial, all on auto repeat. That is fantastic. Glad you got it all working there. What is your thoughts on cloud versus on-prem? I have a Homelab where I began learning deployment, but at the job, they asked to work with the ABD where I got to learn now. I'm really preference to on-prem things, but sometimes with businesses, it's not practical. I'm an example of that. I still use Gmail. Well, it's not actually Gmail. It's what Google's business version. What are they calling it today? I want to say someone was talking about this earlier, Google Docs. Whatever Google's business services are called today, Google Workspace, and I still use that because it's better than trying to run my own mail server. So some things still go in the cloud, and I just did a video posted yesterday about Vates, about what does or doesn't go in the cloud. I'm definitely preferred to host things myself whenever possible. Yeah. Good backups, 3-2-1 backup, one offsite. Usually only learn after we lose some critical data. People, yes. But the best customers for cybersecurity have had an incident. They know once they've had an incident, they know the importance. People who care about backups are more often people who have had loss. Once they've experienced some data loss, they go, wow. If they have a really close call or they have an event that makes them pull from their cloud, they're like, well, I think we probably should have 2 copies on site. We had a law firm years ago. Man, they were cheap. And it took an incident of them losing. Now they had backups in the cloud. They just didn't have secondary local backups. And when they realized it was going to take a few days to download all their legal documents, especially because this was like 12 years ago, their internet connection wasn't fast enough. And we're like, you're not getting all your documents back any faster. We ended up speeding it up. I had faster internet. We downloaded it at my site and drove it over to them, but they realized how long their restore time is. And that's something when you tabletop out, you have to really look at. You're like, oh crap, we're storing 10 terabytes of data in Backblaze. Yeah. How are you going to get it back? Well, eventually. That's how. I mean, how fast do you need it back? You got to play around the scenarios. And yes, companies will ship you drives with your data, but once again, that's not happening in an hour. Yeah, nobody wants a backup that works. Everyone wants a restore that works. Untested backups are wishful thinking. Yeah. Sometimes I call it G Suite. Sometimes I call it Google Workspace. I don't know which one it's called now. Yeah. Always test those restores. What are the instances in TrueNAS for? The instances are what they're calling their, I believe it's LXC. I have not played with them yet. So, and it'll be on my to-do list soon, maybe. I don't know. But that's the LXC containers they're using. Fly someone to DR back. Yeah. We had driving as well. One of the, it was consulting, not a managed client. And they had a data loss event. Now they had 2 locations, and what we had helped them configure a number of years earlier was backing up from one location to the other. And the other location, one location was like, I think there was about a 16-hour drive between them. So they were several states away. So it was the fastest method to the total disaster that happened at location A was to unrack the server at location B where all the data was and drive it to location A, because that was the fastest way to get the data there. That is the thing. So is it the instances are the VMs now? They've changed the wording on it. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Because they swapped how the back end works. So it has new wording on how it all works because it doesn't work like it used to work. When I upgraded my system, I only had one VM and I didn't care about it much. And I could import it. I haven't done much. So I haven't even selected a pool for it yet since I upgraded, because I do have a VM on here, but I'm just going to let it die because I don't need it. I'm going to build a new VM. I'm going to do a better one, and I'm probably not going to do it in TrueNAS. Maybe I will. I don't know. Hi, Tom. I hope you're well. Speaking of TrueNAS, am I going crazy thinking that multiple snapshots for the data set should be possible? Daily, monthly, for example. I think you can do that. I think you can set up multiple snapshot jobs that will do that for you. because you would first do, and let me figure out another TrueNAS to do this on. Log in and do this one. Okay, there's a testing one. So I should be able to go through and data protection, snapshot task. So should work. Was it? I thought I just called it testing. Where's it at? Oh, it's called testing speed. So this should be keep it for 2 weeks. Just hit save. And then you would add another task. And then this one, you would change it from weekly to maybe an hourly one. And that should do it. So you can choose these different options like this. That would be the, you just got to create two separate snapshot tasks. Should work. What's the optimal size for Optane drives and slog? About 22. So it's not at all about how much data you have. The slog has nothing to do with the total volume of data. I have a whole video called, I believe it's even titled the same as some of the articles that it was based on. It's like demystifying slog. If you look, I've got several videos on it. The slog only has to be as big as the amount of data you write during a cycle of about 5 seconds. So it's not how much data is stored on a machine. It's how much data is being ingested. And by the way, that's a very small amount of data. So yeah. So you don't base it on the total volume of data because it only has to store those temporary writes. UniFi network application was released yesterday and still considered presets defaults to 80 instead of 40 as outlined in the preset description. I would post on UniFi about that. I don't know what the default is supposed to be. I don't think they say. It does go to 80, but I don't know why. I don't know why. It seems like 40 should be a default for conservative, but they have it set to 80. But then again, most of the time for conservative stuff, 2.4 is better connectivity. The retention on Synology is nice, but I don't like the alleged drive lock-in on new models. Oh, I know. I think everyone's mad about that. I think that's a pretty consistent thing. There has been a lot of well-deserved outrage at Synology for locking things in. Yeah, the Synology's idea of that is just, yeah. And I mean, I know people at Synology and I know they don't love my video, but I was like, well, I don't love what you're doing. So y'all better do something about it. Y'all perhaps a press release, perhaps a better press release, perhaps not locking people in. Maybe that would be great. I don't know. The thing is, when you're calculating it for business, I get it. And even for home users, and if you're asking the question as someone was earlier, here's the thing. Let's say you go, wow, I want to find a backup replacement for Synology Active Backup. Synology Active Backup is solid. There's going to be a bunch of people that completely agree on here. But what's going to happen is you have to do a price comparison. If I were to license some commercial software, Veeam was mentioned earlier. Let's say Veeam, because Veeam's a backup tool that's pretty popular. But if you're looking at commercial applications, you're like, well, how much is a license for Veeam? And I know they have a free tier, I think, but I don't always trust free tiers. Trust the paid ones because they're less likely to go away. Free tiers disappear and get the rug pulled out from under you from commercial companies. That's pretty common. But you have to just kind of do a cost analysis. What does it cost to buy a Synology with the drives in it? And let's say it will last me 5 years. What does 5 years of Veeam cost, or whatever application you choose? Figure out what is the most reasonable way to do it. No easy answers. But I agree. I mean, I don't like their lock-in. I think it's a terrible idea. So if that's all we're talking about, oh yeah, I don't like it. I can't say Synology's dead to me because I really like Active Backup and I don't have another solution right now. So I'm not thrilled with that. But my Synologies are not end of life, and they are not the ones with the drive lock-in. So I will continue using my Synologies until a later date. Thing is what I don't like about the whole Synology situation, even the business wise, is they don't even have SLAs, nothing. They do on their enterprise stuff. We're a Synology reseller, and they do have agreements on their enterprise. We've actually installed Synology Enterprise for stuff, and it's been very reliable. So they do on their high end stuff. Oh, it's them rug pulling older models and drive lock-in with a software update. I don't think they would do it because of the ill will it would create to brick someone's existing Synology. And they've stated they're not going to. There's really nothing stopping them. You're not wrong. It just feels like doing it retroactively is different than saying we're going to do something in the future. Also, by the way, my assumption is that Synology did that announcement not on their main system, but they did like on their main pages in their bigger markets. They announced it in German. And I found that interesting. I even commented when I did the video that I'm doing this in Google Translate. So I'm not a native German speaker. Sorry if there's any miswording here, because I'm using Google to translate German to English. And, you know, there is a nuance that can be lost when you translate language. But back to what Synology's doing, I'm like, it felt pretty clear what they said here, but I have a feeling that was them testing the market, because now they can go, oh, that was our German division. You know, they have an opportunity to go, you know, there's a bunch of people at Synology have a meeting right now, and they're like, I think we made some people angry. there's actually, you got to figure someone product pitched this internally and go, you know what, I got an idea. let's lock the customers in and see what they say. And someone signed off on it, and someone's now in trouble. So I have a feeling it's, you know, not that I have any deep insight in Synology, but it seemed odd announcing that in German on a German blog. It was their site. It was directly from Synology, but it was only on their German side. I think it was them testing the waters, and the water was hot. I haven't really looked deeply at the UNAS stuff, but if it runs TrueNAS, thumbs up. I was close to getting a Synology only for their PC backup and video software. Haven't been able to find anything backup PC and TrueNAS other than Markium Reflect for $50 a year for personal. Yeah, it's the thing. I mean, you weigh out if it's 50, like if you're using Markium Reflect and it's $50 a year, you're like, okay, a Synology costs this, and then I got to pay $50 a year over 5 years. You know, let's just say a 5-year life cycle of a Synology, and maybe you can get longer. I've got Synology's been running over 5 years. So which is the cost more? Because by the way, that's just the Markham Reflect software. You still got to store it somewhere. So you still have to buy a NAS. Yeah. This is very true. Legally, because in the US, unfortunately, the laws are pretty weak around this, but the EU would definitely have an issue if Synology retroactively bricked things. That would be a problem. I would say for Homelab use, Unraid is pretty popular because they made it really easy to set up applications with a lot of applications. Performance wise, TrueNAS definitely will outperform an Unraid system. I'm not aware. I know Unraid has now got some ZFS in there, but they don't have the same, my understanding, and someone can correct me on this, they don't have the same full ZFS deployment like it is in TrueNAS. But Unraid's very popular in a home lab because of its ease of use, and I don't think it's a bad idea to use it in a home lab. I just don't use it myself, so I can't really speak to it. Yesterday, I saw that an email was sent to various YouTubers officially from Synology, and it did not. I mean, they emailed me, but nothing official. I know people at Synology, so I had some contact with them, but nothing. You know, they don't love my video. How's that? I did a video separately on virtualizing TrueNAS. Personally, I don't care for it, but if you're going to do it, I've got a video and showing you how to do it. Yeah, Veeam does have that free individual thing, but I've not really used it. We use Veeam commercially at work, but yeah. I have no idea about the job market. That's something I probably know the least about. I set up a new pfSense CE server when I added rules to my LAN. They didn't work even after sorting them top down. What might be the issue? I don't know. I don't know what rule you're doing and which rule didn't work. Forums are a great place to post your rules and post what you're trying to accomplish. That's the question I sometimes have for people when they post in forums. And I've debated about doing a video just called like how to get better help online. And sometimes I don't know what people's goals are, and I have to ask them the two common questions I have when replying, not just my forums, but forums in general on the internet. What are you trying to do? And what are the logs? And first, sometimes it's like, what are you trying to do? What do you think stopping you from doing it? What evidence or logs can you provide me to help you on your journey? And yeah, those are the really key components to asking a good question. The rules aren't working. I need to know what rules aren't working. What is the rule you're trying to apply, and what makes you think it's not working? So it makes a long difference on how to get help. Follow the bearded IT dad. I'm glad he's still here. He's a good reminder. He does good videos on the topic of the job market and things like that. So yes. Zyxel's had a history of problems, and so I simply avoid their firewalls. Yeah, so the whole asking the question thing is just challenging sometimes. So yeah, anyway, I can help people ask a better question. A guy had tagged me, he posted my forums, and I think he had 3 paragraphs that he wrote. I read it, and he was just going on about all the drives he was looking at. But then when no one replied, he tagged me and said, no one's replying to this. And then I'm like, I don't know what to reply. Is there a question in there? Because I think my first thing is, I said, there's no question marks. I said, I think you're just spitballing ideas about drives, but you just dumped 3 paragraphs of comparisons. I don't know if there's a question or an ask in here, what you're trying to do or what your goal is at all. And he goes, well, I thought someone would help me pick a drive out. And I'm like, well, okay, but what's your criteria? You just laid out 3 completely different scenarios, but none of it even tells you what you're looking for. And it kind of made me think about it. I'm not trying to be rude at all. I'm just trying to get people to a better conclusion faster. And that's always the goal. Thanks, Tom. Get yourself a glass of whiskey and any drink you're choosing, best from the UK. Awesome. One day I got to go to the UK. That is definitely on my to-do list. The UK is on my travel list. Can you distill what a firewall does for an average home user home lab in 2020 firewall versus something like OpenWRT? Well, OpenWRT is a firewall. And so I guess I don't understand the question. I mean, OpenWRT is an open source firewall, similar to pfSense, similar to OpenSense. They all separate the inside of your network versus the outside of the network, ideally. The best questions are asked by people who have already done the research. The problem is they face to get stuck some way. Yeah. What do you think of Wazoo? I've done a video on it. I think Wazoo is pretty cool. Would Veeam CE run on a TrueNAS server? I don't think. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't Veeam need a Windows server to run? I can't remember how the CE version works. I don't. My company uses Veeam, but I'm not an expert on Veeam. All right, I said about an hour ago that I was winding this down. Now I'm actually hungry, and I got to feed me and the wife. Okay, so someone else is correct here on the yeah, Veeam runs on a Windows server. I thought so, because we have a Windows server running it. I assumed it was only Windows. What's considered the best hypervisor? Ooh, this is a spicy topic. My opinion is XCP-ng, and there's a bunch of people that are about to smash the Proxmox button. I'm just beating them to it. So I like XCP-ng. There's nothing wrong with Proxmox. It comes down to opinion. You are doing well if you're running Proxmox, and it is popular. I prefer XCP-ng. I love the integrated backups. I've got several videos on getting started with it. We use it commercially. It is fully open source. So is Proxmox. So either one of those are very good choices. If you're narrowing it down a little bit simpler and you're like, well, I don't have a whole setup, VirtualBox, I think, is still a viable option here in 2025 for people looking to run something completely local. But as I mentioned earlier, you guys can find me. I'm going to go food first. That's a first topic is food. Me and the wife are hungry. I'm getting messages. I will probably be playing some games later because I want to chill out and zone out. And you can find me on Steam. I've been doing this to get, more people. I have become stupidly. I keep playing this stupid game called Insurgency Sandstorm. I like it a lot. I've apparently played 42 hours of it. I know that's not a lot for people who game a lot, but it is. It is for Tom because he doesn't game much. But nonetheless, I'm easy to find. If you head to lawrencesystems.com, you will find all the links of how to get a hold of me. All these little buttons down here at the bottom, whatever socials you'll find me on. Homelab at lawrencesystems.com is an easy way to email me. Forums at lawrencesystems.com. I'm in the forums all the time and definitely there. So yeah, I'm sorry you did join at the end. Maybe if I'm feeling inspired, I'll do this again tomorrow. And because why not? I love live streams. I love interacting with all of you. I've been doing this for 2 hours and 40 minutes without a break. I've ran out of water and I'm definitely hungry. So this is when it's so sorry that you joined right at the end here. Like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications when I do more of these live streams. I've been trying to commit to doing more of them on the weekends. I do one every Thursday though as well. So the Thursday ones are the ones I always do. Sometimes I do them on the weekend as well. And maybe I'll do some more during the week. There's so many people that come in and I enjoy helping all the community and all this. Thanks everyone. And take care.